Welcome to our third episode in our drowning prevention series. In these follow-up episodes, we're featuring swim schools and stakeholders and bringing their message to you about the importance of water safety this summer. Today, we have the opportunity to speak with Kaylee Kennedy from the K&K Swim School. K&K offers a whole host of services. The lessons and the services that they provide are backed with the passion and their commitment to water safety. This morning, we're going to get Kaylee's taken all that, and she's going to impress upon us the importance and what to pay attention to, and as well give us some insight into her school. Welcome, Kaylee. All right. Good morning, Kaylee.
Hey there.
So you're coming to us from Montreal, correct?
Yes, that's where I live.
Sounds good. So when we started to launch this drowning prevention series, I had an idea, and I wanted to talk to the professionals and those steeped in the industry and either debunk or validate my idea. And my idea was simple. It was that because of folks like you who do such a good job every day in terms of promoting swimming, the lessons and ideas around drowning prevention, the people that need to be making decisions in terms of what should be essential, what people need to be pay attention to, they're not doing that. We take water safety for granted. So my opening question to you is, in however you want to answer it, as a country, as a society, do we take these things for granted because of the fact that you guys do such a good job with this and it's not being paid attention to by the people that are making key decisions?
Yeah, I feel I take advantage of it. And it's funny, I only realized, I always knew that water safety was really important. I always vouched for it. I have 2 kids of my own that I always made sure knew how to swim before this pandemic hit. And then as soon as the pandemic hit, I live in Montreal, so Quebec has very, very strict restrictions all the way since October of last year. A lot of our businesses have been closed, especially the pools and our swimming lessons here in Quebec. And before the pandemic hit, I would go swimming with my kids once a week. It would be just a weekend activity. And I loved spending my time with my children in the water. And I feel like I took that time for granted. I'm very knowledgeable when it comes to swimming, and I feel like even with all the knowledge and everything that I have over the last year that my children have barely touched water, I feel like I've done a disservice even to them, because they are my ultimate priority being a mother. And when we went to Ottawa before Ontario started to experience all these closings, and we just needed to get away for a couple of days, and we used the pool at the hotel. And as soon as my daughter jumped into the water, she automatically panicked. She had goggles on, everything. I was right in front of her, and she automatically panicked, and she couldn't put her face into the water. And that's the moment where I felt like I failed as a parent. And it's such a shame because it's not my fault, but I felt like everything that led up to that moment was my fault because I didn't find a problem-solving solution to help my children make sure that they're safe around water. So we spent the next 45 minutes, which was the time slot that we could get in that full weekend that we went to the hotel for. We got 45 minutes that we could swim with our kids. And I tried my best to make sure that she understood how to swim again. And it was really frustrating, and it was difficult for myself as a parent. And so it's so funny how, we've fought really hard to make sure that our operations, I own a swim school in Western Canada, so Saskatchewan and Alberta, and they've stayed open for the majority of the pandemic. So we fought really hard to make sure that our operations were running out there. But I got to see firsthand how badly the pandemic can be in areas where there are really strict restrictions. And now that, our pools just closed in Alberta for the 3rd time, it's scary, but the thing is that I feel like a lot of families are recognizing how important water safety actually is. The amount of families that have expressed extreme interest in joining our program, and desperation, crying on the other end of the phone because they can't get in because all of our time slots are oversaturated and booked. I want to make sure that I can do everything that I can so that families can, be able to enroll into swimming classes and give their children everything that they need. But those families are experiencing the same desperation that I felt when my daughter jumped into the pool. And I know what I'm doing. So it's the irony is it's a shame everything that's happening right now. And I think that parents and swim schools and businesses alike are just trying to do everything they can to just stay afloat, because we're going to be ready to absorb everything that we like, all of the I don't want to say PTSD, but all of the experiences and the feelings that we had coming through and going through this pandemic. We're going to have to experience it after the fact. And I think that that's what's the scariest thing. It's not so much about right now, but it's about in a year from now, where my daughter could have been if we continued to swim, where we could have been a year from now versus where we're going to be. That's going to be the hard thing for me to have to come to terms with. So it's funny. I don't know. I'm a bit confused about that question, because my priorities and my values are always, they stayed the same prior to the pandemic to now, but the way that I'm problem solving and trying to view the outcome in the situation is so different than what I thought I would be experiencing a year ago to today, if that makes any sense.
It totally does. And I appreciate you sharing. I mean, you shared a moment of vulnerability there, so I appreciate you sharing that. And at the end of the day, I mean, like the thesis was, was just, we take swimming and we take water safety for granted, right? And what I'm seeing, because I mean, obviously on the other side, like we supply folks like you guys, like we're in the same chain as swim schools in terms of, like helping to provide something that somebody needs to go enjoy the pool and so on and so forth. And, at the end of the day, it's easy to be frustrated and say, like, you can open up all these things, but swimming, which is a life-saving activity, we're going to ignore that. And not pay attention to it. So I appreciate you did answer my question. So I appreciate you doing that and sharing your answer. And I want to share an experience with you, because we were very fortunate. Our twin daughters, who are 3, just turned 4, were enrolled in K&K swim lessons last fall.
Yeah.
And I happened to be at the pool during their lessons, and I was helping one of my daughters, get in the pool or whatever. I think I was actually taking a picture of her in the pool, right? And my other daughter was not doing anything unsafe. She stepped in a puddle, slipped, and went right in the pool, right? And the only reason we saw her was because the swimming lesson and the skills she had learned in the lessons brought her back up to the surface and taught her she knew what to do, right? And like, I'm eternally grateful, because I remember how scared I felt in that moment because we didn't hear it. Like, it was silent, her going into the pool, right? So that's a big thank you to you guys. And also, I hope to illustrate the importance of the swimming lessons. So.
Well, I think the biggest thing too is that like nothing's open right now. So parents aren't going to the pool. They're not playing with their kids around water. And when you're not exposed to the element, it can be very dangerous, because parents, oh, well, if I just don't bring my kids near water, then it's okay. They won't drown. But that's not the fact. Like I said, the fact is, a year from now, when those kids start going around the water, or even this summer, in a month and a half from now, once beaches start opening up and parents have more access to water and children have more access to water, that's when it's going to start to become detrimental and scary for parents. And that level of vulnerability is something that I don't want parents to have to experience, or if they're going to experience it, they see a light at the end of the tunnel instead of having something drastic happen, for sure.
Absolutely. So let's talk about K&K. So we'll go into a little bit of where it all began. So this started out of a hotel pool in Saskatoon, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. I started the company when I moved from Montreal to Saskatoon, when I had a 1-year-old. My husband and I moved out there just for job opportunity. I used to be a dental hygienist, so I figured, hey, I'll get paid more in Saskatchewan. So I moved there, and within 3 weeks, I made no friends. So I decided to open a business and teach children to swim, because I did that in Montreal, just getting through school. And so I did that in Saskatoon, and it started in just a small hotel pool. And then now we're across Alberta and Saskatchewan, and teaching in rented space like hotel pools.
Yeah, fair enough. So in terms of that water safety message, you guys are fantastic on social media. There's people listening or watching should check you out on Instagram, should check you out on Facebook, and so on and so forth. What messaging are you sending out to your current clients in terms of key things to pay attention to from a water safety perspective?
I think just being present with your children, that's something that we're trying to focus on, because when the pandemic hit, I started an online swim program where we taught babies and parents in their bathtub, because why not? So we did that. I figured if I can give parents as much education as possible around water, then they'll become more accustomed to it when they actually get to large bodies of water like the pool and the lake. So that was sort of my whole intention around that. And so that kicked off, like revamping everything within K&K Swim School, making sure that our parents are understanding the importance of water safety, and just like little things like how to observe proper breath control, and like what does it sound like when your child is swimming and they are confident swimming, and what does it sound like when they're not confident, and then how can that create fear and trauma. Like those things are now heavily touched on social media, because I've seen the importance and how valuable social media actually is in getting certain messages out there. So we actually don't talk a lot about, prevention of drowning in the water. What we talk a lot about is just how to make the water become more of a safer space and more enjoyable, so that the experience is more positive, and safe. And so that's how we've shifted things, to make sure that people stay engaged with how vital water safety actually is. And like I said, I feel like it is working, because parents are a lot more receptive. I mean, like I said, we have a waiting list out the door. It's insane, and it breaks my heart that we can't teach all of those kids, but it's also pretty incredible to see how responsive parents are to the need of getting their child to learn how to swim.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, don't be afraid to toot your own horn. I mean, like, you guys have built a really good business out west, right? So, and it's built in a way that's very convenient for people like people to subscribe to, and so on and so forth. And I do think that like there are enough people that really do understand the value of swimming and knowing to be safe around the water, right? But it's still, when we close everything down and don't acknowledge that through regulation, like we're not actually acknowledging the risks. So when it comes down to the summer, like as we saw last summer, we're going to see a plethora of people putting in backyard pools, going to the lake, going to the cottage, all that stuff. And like the accidents were up. We all saw the headlines and so on and so forth last year, and unfortunately there were too many that resulted in in death, which is unfortunate. But what are some things, like you as a parent, you're going to the lake, you go to the cottage, like what are some things you're absolutely making sure that you're doing while you're there?
Well, first of all, get in the water with your kids. I feel like, but that's always been my message, is just play with your children in the water. It's such an incredible, don't take that for granted, because that can easily be taken for granted, pandemic or not. So that's the first thing, is get into the water with your children, because only once you're in the water can you actually experience what they can actually do in the water. If you're not going to be in the water with your children, make sure that they have some sort of life jacket on, especially if you're on a boat. Put a life jacket on your child the entire time that you're on the boat. On the deck, same thing. Keep a life jacket, because accidents happen and drowning is silent. So making sure that those things are pretty well monitored. But I think my biggest thing is just get in the water with your kids, because if parents can just see the joy that is swimming and how joyful children are in the water, it's such a different experience from the parents' perspective to making sure that they're okay in the water. God forbid they're alone.
Yeah, fair enough. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Well, I was going to say also, like, there's certain like backyard pools. That's a huge one. I mean, I live in Quebec, so we have a lot of backyard pools here. But truly, they're popping up everywhere because everything is closed. So backyard pools, to me, they need to be fenced and gated with a lock. And if there could be some sort of sensor on the back of in the back door of the house, that would also be really great, so that if ever the child leaves the house, through the backyard door, the parent is notified, that type of thing. Because especially with also the retail market, the housing market is really huge. So parents are young families are purchasing older homes that have grandfathered laws of, backyard pools not having fences. And then there's no body, like governing body, to actually make sure that those children that are living in those homes or that are living near those homes are actually safe. And that there's actual preventative measures to make sure that the pool is blocked off. So I don't know. I feel like more discussion on fences and locks and gates around pools definitely needs to be had to make sure that children are, they're within a safe and respectful zone within the water.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And in a previous show, we talked about the expected regression of kids when they've been out of the water for that long, and you kind of touched on all that stuff there. So, in terms of like talking to parents, it would be fair to say that what your kid could do a year ago, they might not be able to do now.
Yeah, they probably won't be able to do it now. It's like, imagine not being able to walk and be a little bit wobbly. What is it, like sea legs or whatever they call it?
Yes, yeah, fair enough. Good enough about exactly. Moving to backyard lessons or backyard pools, you guys have adapted again, and this is kind of like a common theme with you guys. Like, you do a really good job of kind of finding sort of the next ways and so on and so forth. And I guess I'm making an assumption that you've adapted. Like, were you doing backyard lessons before?
No. Yes.
Okay.
Done it. Like when I taught, especially when I was a teenager, I did backyard lessons all throughout my community in Montreal. When I went out west, I figured there was so many less backyard pools at the time. I was like, we don't really need to focus too much on it, but we'll do a few here and there. We did a little bit, but it wasn't our main focus. And then once the pandemic hit and we started to see so many people get pools in their backyards, and then not know how to utilize them, I was like, okay, no, we actually have to teach families how to use their pools appropriately. So we did adapt to backyard lessons because of the pandemic.
Yeah, fair enough. And it's hopefully a good stopgap to prevent as many accidents as possible through the summer and whatnot. So in terms of like future plans for you guys and the swim school and whatnot, where does K&K go next?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Okay, great answer.
I think, well, listen, like I know exactly where I want to be, but how I'm going to get there and how fast, man, only time will tell. And only the pandemic will tell, because that is the pandemic ultimately is the make or break for obviously everything. But I love the fact that we're able to teach in such remote areas, and that we partner with such incredible hotels. So the venues that we partner with are very open to this change and everything that's been happening with the climate today. And so it's been really cool to have such great personal relationships with them. And so I think that the most exciting thing for K&K is that I would love to start teaching in more remote areas to get children that have very, very, very little access to water swimming with confidence, and parents actually being educated. That's something that is very exciting and promising for the future, especially with everything that we're doing in the back end to make sure that the operations are just constantly smoother and more efficient. But that's probably what the most exciting thing is for K&K.
Sounds good. So at this point, I would normally ask that we go take a tour of your facility and stuff like that. We're not going to do that here. But what I do want to talk to you about, and what I want to kind of feature from your school, is that between you and Karim, you and your husband, like you guys have, like you have a massive cohort of instructors, right? Yes. You've built a fantastic team. So talk to me about how you take that passion that you have for water safety, and like it's almost contagious, like because like our instructor, when we were with you guys, like like it exudes the same thing. So how do you pass that on? How do you build that culture, and why is it so important for you guys?
How we build it is we find the right people. Honestly, I mean, when you think about it, water safety, it's a no-brainer, right? And so much so that people take it for granted. So once you find people that are passionate, just in general, they could be passionate about anything. Once you explain the importance of water safety and just learning how to swim, from anybody's perspective, child or adult, that's when that passionate person really turns on. So it's it's less about like how do we exude that and then transfer it, and it's more about finding the right person and then just turning the key. Like what's like this the secret sauce, and being able to feed that to them so that they can exude it themselves. So I think that's how we've built such a great team, is we've just found pretty amazing people, because amazing people are not that hard to find. You just kind of need to pay attention and be mindful. And so we've actually done a pretty good job at it. And especially with social media right now, you know, you put out what you attract. And so everything that we put out, people that really believe in what we are saying because we believe it, will just come, and that's exactly what they've done. Is they've kind of just joined forces and said, hey, like, I totally believe the same thing. Teach me more about what your thoughts are. And we do that. And then they do a pretty good job at arraying that with all of their students.
Sure. I mean, I've met several of your staff before, and the idea is contagious, right? So,
Cool.
so yeah, you know, like, that's absolutely awesome. And, you know, to kind of wrap this up and kind of bring it to a close, we've touched on this in, you know, various minutes over the last, you know, 20 or so, but just like, if there's, you know, a bullet point list of a few things you can really hit home on, it's like, do this, don't do this, be safe, what do you leave people with?
Hoy.
Sorry, I put you on the spot there.
Big question, Jason. Because there's a lot of things that are going on in the world.
Yeah.
Swimming is I want people to go into these summer months. It's starting to get warmer now. So I want people to go out there with a positive outlook on the water and not fear. You know, swimming does not have to be scary. Like I said, as long as you just get into the water with your kids and you just experience it with them. Especially, I feel like the pandemic has taught parents how to do that a little bit more. Parents are a lot more hands-on now than we used to be even 5 years ago. I know that the new generation of parents, they parent so differently than the way that I have. And my kids are 8 and 5. So I'm not even that far off. So I don't know. Any advice that I give is mute, to be honest, because the world is going to do whatever they do. And I think that the world is on a much better path than what I was on 5 years ago, like I said, as a parent. So just experience more with your kids. And then when you're doing that, be mindful of what you're doing so that you can actually understand what's happening within your surroundings. And try not to let the pandemic get you down, because what will be, and you can't really do anything about it anyways.
That was a fantastic answer. That was not what I was expecting. You know, like, very holistic, you know, like, very down to earth, and, you know, like, you used the word mindful several times. It was a very mindful answer. That was really good, Kaylee.
Yeah, I don't know. I go to a lot of therapy in the best way, but I do. It's something that, especially as a business owner in this climate, things can be very difficult because there is no right answer for anything right now. And the future, it's not that the future is scary. I can see myself coming out of it either way. I just know that our team is very adaptable. Our students are extremely adaptable. Children are very adaptable and malleable. My daughter might have a very tough time learning how to swim again once we get back into the water in a month from now at our community pool, which hopefully opens. She'll have a hard time, but she's going to make it. She'll be fine, as long as I can recognize the fact that she's allowed to have a hard time, because this pandemic affected all of us. So I think that as a human being and as an adult, I need to make sure that my children recognize that and they understand how to, you know, persevere and come through all of this in a brighter space.
Well, the intent of this was, you know, to talk about water safety and get, you know, some tips from an expert. We got, you know, definitely some life advice, and, you know, almost like a road plan on how to come out of this, which is great, because it really all bleeds together at the end of the day, whether it's, you know, pools being closed or schools being closed or our businesses being affected or restaurants being closed. You know, the old adage, you know, this too shall pass. You know, we just have to get there, right? So
yeah, totally. Yeah. And you know what? It's all a mindset. I don't know, all the podcasts that I listen to, everything is all about the mindset that you have. It'll be what you want it to be. And so, you know, like expanding K&K to online to give my staff purpose and reason in a time that we were closed actually proved to teach thousands of children up until now how to put their face in the water and to submerge in a bathtub. So it's like, honestly, anything is possible. We just have to kind of work together and kind of get there. But that's what my 2 cents is. But that's what I've learned throughout the pandemic. I don't know if it's drowning preventative, though. Is that?
Well, I mean, I think, you mentioned some common themes for the last few episodes in terms, the fact that drowning is silent. You need to be mindful, and at the right time, you got to use a PFD. But, at the end of the day, like I said, I think it kind of all bleeds together, right? Like we have, reason and, like the silver lining to all of this. And like we've done this drowning prevention series, but we also run, a show called the On Deck Show, where we talk mostly with, professional coaches and athletes and so on and so forth. And the one common theme from everybody through this pandemic is that they've become more aware, they communicate better, they listen better, and they know more about the people that they were previously interacting with, because the pace has been forced down to a grinding halt, right? So instead of going at 1,000,000 miles an hour, we're going nice and slow. Coaches know more things about their swimmers than they've ever known. They know more about their coaches, more about their programs, more about their cities. Like that seems to be the silver lining. Like we've got this opportunity to slow down. In my case, learn how to barbecue better. Like the things that you really want to do, you can, and you have that opportunity now, because in so many ways, everything else is off the table.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, that's awesome. I can't say anything to that. That was perfect.
Well, I really appreciate your time, and keep doing what you're doing, because I mean, like our girls are looking forward to getting back in the pool with your instructors out here. And when that happens, like we'll be ready. So
awesome. Well, we'll be ready to have you.
Sounds good. Well, thanks a lot for your time, Kaylee. I really appreciate that. I'm going to let you get back to your day. All the best. Give my best to Karim and the rest of your staff as well.
Thank you so much, Jason. Have an awesome rest of your week.
Yeah, thank you. You as well.
Crash at the starting line. Engines pumping and thumping in time.
Hey, if you like that, head over to YouTube and check out the Ocean Junction channel. Make sure to like and subscribe for more great videos featuring amazing speakers. Thanks for watching.